welcome to Ronins of the East, episode number 2. Today we have Svetlana artist, Svetlana on the show. We're going to be talking about the creative process behind her music, any upcoming projects, and basically what makes her a Ronin. As we discussed in the first episode, we define a Ronin as an individual that has gone the path less travelled, a masterless samurai, someone that has decided to forge their own journey and as a result is materialized in the success that they're seeing in their market and in their music, right? So with that being said, why don't you introduce yourself to the people watching?
Hello, my name is Svetlana. I'm a singer-songwriter from London, but my roots are Nigerian. I'm Igbo, and I make soul music, but also just different genres that represent me, basically.
Awesome. So the cliche questions, we'll get them out of the way because as mentioned, I'm not trying to be boring here, but what was it that attracted you to music in the first place?
Well, I think I first started writing poetry and books, and I was attracted to the idea of escape. I think even from a very young age, I just wanted to be somewhere different. I didn't want to be here. So I used to read so many books, and I just found music as another form of escape. And then the more I started to write and the more I started to really use it, I was like, oh, I actually can use this to just get rid of my emotions at the same time. And sometimes when I sing, people feel the same way. So that's what got me into it.
See, I'm going to take a small trip down memory lane. I remember the first session that we had.
Yeah.
So a mutual friend, Idris Miller, who is also going to be on this at some point, he invited me to a session saying there's this artist I work with called Svetlana that's looking for a bassist. And I remember coming into the session thinking, all right, is this going to be like another big personality that kind of comes in? And then I remember you were so timid, so reserved, and then as soon as you got onto the microphone and you played the guitar and sang, it's like motorcycle. We're like, is this the same person? So I really like what you said there about escapism. How has that kind of developed in your more formative music years to now this point where I think it's safe to say you really know yourself musically, right?
Well, I think now I've understood that it's not like there's a lot of people inside of me, but there's different components that make me me, and I need music to show one side of me because it helps me to get rid of all the emotions that I can't get rid of when I'm just how I am now, if that makes sense. So I think in that way music sort of saves me and gives me, I need it basically.
I can align with that from my side because, as you said, for me, I was never really able to really express some of my more deeper emotions. But then when I make music, it's like I read the comments and people are like, this calmed me, this was soothing.
Exactly.
And it's the exact same for me. It's like I do believe that as humans, we sometimes, I forget the proper phrase, but duality in the sense, we have multiple faces, some we show to our friends, some we show to other people. So the phrase you used a second ago, for you, music is a way for you to acknowledge the different sides of your psyche, but also to get rid of it almost.
Yeah.
What did you mean?
For me, I'm someone, if I meet someone straight away, or even if I know them for a few times, it's still hard for me to open up. I'm naturally, I don't know if it's naturally, but I haven't grown up in an environment where I've seen people openly talk about their emotions. So I think that kind of rubbed off on me. But with music, I can literally talk about if I had a bad relationship, if I had a bad experience in my life, or a good experience in my life, and I don't feel scared to go on stage and sing it. I know that every single person now knows what I've been through. But on another, a whole nother level, I could never say it face to face. So I think that's funny to me in a way.
Do you think that is cultural? Because what you just said, I'm Yoruba, obviously. I'm not Igbo, I'm Yoruba, and I claim it.
Yeah.
But in the same way, when it comes to expression, I found the older I've got, I've realised that I developed certain coping mechanisms, i.e. music is another example of not being able to really acknowledge how I was feeling, and so you kind of carry this with you and you're not really conscious of it. If we talk about your upbringing, if you don't mind going there, so Igbo, second generation in England, what kind of intersections did you experience growing up and how did that play into what you've just mentioned there?
I think on one hand, as an Igbo person, you're always aware of your history of like Biafra War and like the weight of being Igbo and a blessing at the same time. So I think for me, I'm naturally always a fighter. I always want to fight for what I want. If I want something, I'll say it. If I don't want it, I'll just say it. And especially in music. But in the same time, I think Nigerian culture, especially for women, can be very oppressive, I found. It's like marriage. You need to have a comfortable life. Like literally on the way, my dad dropped me to the station. It was like that conversation. And I don't
Did he ask you, you're going to get married today? Or what do you mean?
No, it was like, you should look for comfortability. Art's not going to give you that. You need marriage, all this stuff. And for me, it's like, I've never wanted that. For me, I can't live a life where I don't see myself in it. I don't see the fight in it or the passion for life. And I want to live my whole life with that mantra. Like, this is my philosophy. If something makes me happy, if something is my passion, if something breathes life into me, then I want to do it for the rest of my life. Marriage is not going to give me that, personally. Music does, writing does, poetry does, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's why I think I recognize that maybe there's someone who is like me of Nigerian culture, Igbo, has that same pressure. Maybe they'll see in me the courage that they need to be themselves. Kind of thing.
Yeah, this is why it's really interesting to observe a musician like yourself, right? When you're on the stage, again, people really resonate with your message of your music. It connects with them. I mean, I can think of so many songs that we wrote together, but also that I've listened since you've developed even further. Myself, Crazy, which one of the cameramen actually referred to earlier. How does that kind of make you feel? Does that give you even more renewed purpose when you have those more difficult moments where behind closed doors you're not able to maybe express yourself in the way in which you'd like to?
Yeah, I think when I feel like oppressed or when I feel like someone doesn't understand me, in the back of my mind is like, well, when I make music, how many people message me that they feel attached to it or it helped them, and that makes me want to go on. And I don't think if I had that, I would be alright, if that makes sense. Yeah.
You'd what?
I wouldn't be alright.
You wouldn't be
I'd probably
alright.
be a very sad person.
Yeah. So what would you define as like happiness from your side?
I think happiness is knowing that your life is your truth. I think you can be happy for others and then a few years later you'll realise like, this is not me, this is not my reflection. But if you feel like I'm living my truth, even if you have the bad days or the good days, are like, this is me and I'm gonna live me and die me. And I think that's a big thing to say.
Almost again breaking social norms, because if we think about most patriarchal societies, which Nigeria obviously falls into to a big degree, you're kind of told to be a good girl, do what's expected of you. But here you are, again, this is why I use the phrase Ronin in these interview series, because it's people that have decided, you know what, I don't quite like this path that you see for me. I've decided to actually go outside. Now let's kind of talk about the creative process for you when it comes to your music. You mentioned that your poetry and your writing is a big component to how you've had these forms of escapism, right?
Yeah.
Just talk us through like how you compose your songs and how you make that.
Like first is always just guitar, like finding chords, and then for me it's like sometimes like the song just comes out, like with Hope or like Myself, like 5 minutes, and it's just there. But if you don't, for me, I don't really, sometimes I'm not even thinking about it. It's just somewhere, like I like to say, like sometimes with artists you feel as if the music's coming from a source that isn't human. Like
Interesting.
That's outside of your human experience. Because sometimes you look at a song like Myself, after I finished writing it, I was just like, whatever. But then to see how it's touched people makes me feel like that was something coming from a deeper place in me that I didn't realise until after. So that's how I feel.
The lyrics go like, I belong to myself.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sing it because
No,
my
you should.
voice is... I'll ask you guys, I need to do that. But I remember listening to that, and it's like such an affirmation, right? It's like you basically saying, you know what? I do what I do for me, and I own that. So I'm not surprised that it resonates with people, especially where many individuals are walking through life with identity crises, turning to other sources because they don't really know who they are or what they want to do, right? There's another song that you also wrote quite recently, which was off the back of a traumatic event from your friend, right? You remember the name, obviously.
Yeah.
It's escaped me
My God on
now.
Earth.
My God on Earth. So, how has that also been another? How do I word this? Another chapter in your story, right? Because this is now talking you're talking as someone else rather than yourself, right? So that's obviously going to be different for you.
Yeah. I think I love her so much. She's like my best friend for the rest of my life. And death is something that you never think is going to happen in that way. And he was amazing, incredible man. And they're like twins. So I think for me it was like, I don't know what to say to make this okay, because it's never going to be okay. This shouldn't have happened. I don't know how to love you enough in a way that can heal the love that you still want from your father. So this is the only way that I know is to show you that I'm there, and I listen to you every time you talk to me, is to write this song. So then I just wrote it from like all the conversations she was like calling me and explaining to me. And yeah, I think it makes you question God in a way that you don't want to question God. And I think that is exactly what happened. And that's what I wanted it to feel like in that song. Like, if God is real, why is this happening to good people?
Yeah, I mean, you know, from my personal situations recently that I can obviously empathise with that one. You know, the reality is it's been a pandemic. We've all experienced death up close, and it's not a nice feeling, and it's not a nice sight. Really, and it makes you question what's the point of all this if people can just be snatched away, right?
Exactly, and it's like, for what? When you think of this government and the way they've done things, it's like, for what? Once again, it's like you see how life is exchanged for profit, and then the wound of that and the effects of that is a lifetime. And I think before you can like read about it, before you can hear about it, but when you're seeing someone experience it firsthand and you love them so much that you're experiencing it in a different way, you just feel so much pain and anger, and like you want to protect someone.
It's the empathy side of things, isn't it? Especially when, like you say, you don't know the right words to say, but you just want to be able to just be like, if this was pain, either kick it or like grab it and throw it somewhere else. So I do get that. But I want to also think about the positives as well, because with these experiences comes perspective, it comes renewed purpose, like you mentioned, where rather than compromising on life because you know how finite it is, you decide to really forge ahead and do what you want to do.
And I think that period taught me like how necessary love is, like just to see how everyone has loved her and given so much support to her. It's like all of this stuff doesn't mean anything if you're not in love with someone or you don't feel that love from people. And I think that has changed my perspective a lot. Like that's at the center of my life now, to give love and to receive it. Kind of.
Absolutely. I mean, it's been interesting as well to kind of observe the evolution of your I wouldn't say persona, because like you said, like there's different elements of you which you show through different mediums, right? But like I've seen you do some collaborations with Project Liquid. That I remember when I saw that picture, I was with Olivia and I was like, yo, look at this, because it was cold, like the pink suit and everything. I was like, this is hard. Now that you've matured in age, perspective, and also music, how have you found navigating the business side of music as well?
I find it hard because I know what I want, I know who I am, but you're constantly told, like, in this industry that sometimes doesn't matter. Like, oh, people want you to be on TikTok, people want you to be on Instagram, people want you to be on this and this. And sometimes you don't want that to be what art is about. Sometimes you just want to sing. And I think that it's also important as an artist, even if you just want it to be about art, to not think like that. Like, it's your business. How many people come out months later like, I signed a deal and it was a mess, or I had this manager and it was like this and this. Like you have to be on it. And I think that is once again bringing that fire where you're just like, I know that this is my vision, and anyone that's going to be a part of that has to come from a genuine place and read what you're fucking signing, kind of thing.
So one thing that you have started to do, like acknowledging the fact that brand is important. I've seen you doing a lot more freestyles on Insta. So like obviously there's some Lauryn Hill references there. There's some there's a bit more diversity to the music you're making now. How have you found that side of things?
I think I like it. Like I think before I was scared, I was thinking too much, and like all of this is me, so let's just show it. I kind of was like, oh well, if I release this song in 2 months, if I work hard on my voice, I'll be 10 times better than that vocal take. But it's a journey. I want to look back on it and say that I can measure when I was at this point in my life, this point in my life, this point in my life, and people like it. So I just carry on.
That's good. That's good. So what do we think is going to be like future states that I can't speak right now? It's cold. That's like
It is fucking cold.
You again. You're already dressed. Props to you. But future state Svetlana musically. So like I know you said you've got a project coming up.
Yeah.
You've been working with more producers, right? You showed me a trap beat which I just would never associate you with musically as well. So where do you kind of see the evolution of your sound going?
I just want it to be more. I just want it to be me. Like, I think that me can be in any genre, but the most important thing is that it's not compromised. Like, it's not doing pop because pop is in, but doing something because I feel it or I can resonate with it. Because for me, the focus is always the lyrics. So I can do that on like a trap beat. I can do that on whatever. But everything has to still come back to song for me.
Sure.
Yeah.
Best music story so far in your career? Or best experience?
I don't think I've had it yet.
I like that answer.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. All right, what was one of your more favourite experiences from the past?
I definitely think making an EP.
Making an EP.
I never thought I'd get to that point in my career. Because I never used to really believe in it. And I think now, like, being around musicians and seeing that they believe in me and they want to like create music with me gives me faith that there's something I have that is special that has to continue, and I don't think I felt that way before.
Yeah, it's almost like the catch-22 of being a musician and being a creative. You're always striving for perfection, and the reality is perfection doesn't exist. No matter how many times you keep changing the lyric, changing the stanzas, changing the chord progression, for me, I always feel like the core message has to be what carries you in whatever medium you choose, whether that's music, whether that's art, whether that's poetry, whether that's even fashion, because then that's when you can stand alone and also to be an individual. Because one thing I'll give you props for is I remember when we used to have our sessions in Roundhouse, if I was trying to be like, yo, let's add this, you're like, nah, don't like it. Let's do this, nah, I don't like it. So have you found a pocket of producers and artists that you feel have helped you to really hone your sound and will take it to the next level, or is it still a search?
I think it's still a search. Like Ben that I'm working with on the EP, I think I'm really grateful. He's taught me a lot by the way he explores music. Like I've tried to learn to give people space to try things, even if I don't necessarily like it at first, like just to see where it could go. Yeah. But I think there's still like people I really want to work with and discover new sounds. Like I really want to work with Mark Ronson one day. That will happen.
Amen. 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 That would be awesome. Yeah. And now kind of going back a few years, right? So like if you were to, and I mean, I don't believe in regret anyway, but like if you were to retrace your steps musically, what would you do differently? What advice would you give to your younger self?
Don't doubt yourself. And because in doubting yourself, you compromise. And you will always be at the losing end of that compromising. And learn how to say no. Like just say no.
Learn how to?
Say no.
Learn how to say no.
Yeah.
Interesting. When you say learn how to say no, do you mean in terms of like projects that no longer or didn't really serve your own interests?
Yeah, and I think even like working with people, like even on the business side or the music side, is like knowing how to say like this isn't working or how you're acting is wrong. And I think that before, even now, sometimes I struggle to really vocalize how I feel, but I'm understanding that I will always be affected by that more than them. And sometimes people will hurt me, but they won't know the extent of it if I don't just say. So I think there's a lot of power in using your voice. Yeah.
Using your voice.
Yeah.
So there's a phrase that you have coined which you need to trademark before it gets taken. What was it?
False conscious liberation.
For those watching, could you explain that for us? Because I want to use this as a case study for exactly what you just said there.
What's happening?
Kinda.
It's not. No, it's just like understanding that I'm learning that people can be inspired by what I do, but then how do you keep the integrity of what you did? And I think that that's something I'm trying to learn. Like, if I do something and someone wants to take it or expand on it in their way, okay, that's fine, but how can I keep that original idea for me? Because I know music is like, you're always inspired, you're always like taking things from people and taking stuff, but sometimes it can get to a point where it's like you're losing your work. So I think I'm learning how to like give but still keep the essence of what I'm giving.
Sure.
Yeah.
So it's hard to not kind of think about this given the current social change we're experiencing. There's been a greater emphasis or greater look into the female perspective, how women have been treated in, you know, many different industries and also walks of life. Right? How have you kind of found navigating the industry as a woman as well?
I find it a bit tricky. I don't know, sometimes you just feel small. And it's not that you are small when you enter the room, but you come to a room and it's all men, and maybe you're the younger one there, and you just feel like, okay, you have to prove something. Even if you don't have to prove something, it's just their attitude towards you. I think sometimes people underestimate women, and I do think people have underestimated me, like people I've worked with, but not in a bad way. I just think, like, you're upcoming, you're not sure what that person's going to bring to the table, and you're not sure the power they have, so you sort of like test the waters. And I think now I'm just learning, like, when I enter a room or when I work with someone, there's boundaries. I'm still learning what boundaries are, and like learning how to take space in a way that is still being Svetlana. So I think that's something I'm learning a lot this season of my life.
Absolutely. So, I mean, when it comes to, I keep going back and forth from future and past just because like you're drawing on so many different themes here, which I think are really interesting. From my own personal experience, like the only times I've had interactions with women in the music industry has predominantly been singers. I don't really find that I've worked with that many female guitarists, female saxophonists, female producers, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that if you were in a position of power in the industry, how would you make it that women actually have more of an actual voice to be able to feel comfortable and feel like they have something worthwhile?
I think you have to put women in powerful positions, like the CEOs, like the managers, like the head of A&R. There should be more women. There should be organizations for producers, and there should be a lot of women dominating that, because at the end of the day, being a woman is not always easy, and sometimes it can be mentally draining. And I don't think that a man can necessarily understand what that is. And women bring something beautiful to the industry because they have their own experiences, they have their own stories to tell. And it shouldn't be just, because there's a 1% like surgence of women, female producers that we're progressing. No, they have to be in the top positions that play the cards, kind of thing. I think that's important. It should be top down, not just down sometimes.
Sure. Awesome. I want to flip this. I know I've been asking you a lot of questions, but do you have any questions for me?
What would you say that the industry has taught you about yourself, good and bad?
Good and bad. I would say what the industry has taught me that's good is there's enough of an audience to go around for you to not sell out. Like you, I've kind of been very clear in my mind as to who I am musically and the message I want my music to convey. It's always been a case of like, you know, my old manager Manny, he now works for Island Records as an A&R. We always clashed heads because he was like, you can do the commercial stuff, you can do the pop songs, and it's like, yeah, but nah, because it doesn't speak to my intrinsic motivation to actually change people's lives with what I do. But then at the same time, the bad side is also there's not as much money in the industry as people think. So like you said with record deals, like a lot of people sign a record deal that end up actually more bankrupt than they were before going into it, right? And so I think it's really important to have a strong ikigai, which is this phrase from a Japanese framework, which is like, your reason for being, similar to what you said about being purpose-driven, and then using that to, find like-minded individuals, find your audiences, and then use that to really catalyze your career. I mean, you and I obviously have that tune we did before, Master of Love, and I remember listening to that again recently because for me, that's what I want to do with whatever medium I choose to express myself in, whether that is in this interview, for example. Like you've touched on a lot of things which I was like, damn, this is good, because it's always about inspiring people that feel as though vulnerability is a weakness, because as you said, through your poetry, through your writing, you've managed to touch the lives of those closest to you. Like you didn't have the words to speak to your best mate. I think I met her as well. Was she taking photos when we were in the strong room? Yeah, I remember. She was cool. She was a bit shy back then, but I get that. But you were still able to really connect with her and connect with other people that had that same pain that they didn't really know where to channel it. Right?
I think vulnerability is powerful. I don't think you should ever be fearful of giving away your story or giving away your emotion, because there's no one in life that hasn't felt sadness. There's no one in life that hasn't felt a sense of grief in a particular way. And I think that in music or in writing, I'm never scared to say I'm in pain or I'm happy or I'm heartbroken, because in saying that, I'm saving myself and helping others. And not even helping others, but being helped by others. Like when I play live and I play certain songs and you can feel the silence, it's like an energy. And I don't want to ever lose that. And I want to learn how to touch people and be touched by people even more by just sharing and making them feel like they own the space as much as I do. And I think that's the beauty of being an artist.
I said I wouldn't ask any boring questions, but just as we're kind of coming to a close with this, like, how has it been not being able to perform to anyone for like a year?
It's hard. I think I realised that by not doing it, I realised that that's actually one of the biggest reasons I do it, is to be live. Like just to feel people in that way. Like I'm not an extrovert, I'm not always talking to people and that's like one of the only times where I just feel freedom. Like I just feel myself. I don't feel anyone's expecting anything from me but to perform and but to listen and to feel it. And I think that now I know that when I perform live, I'm definitely gonna do more things, or definitely gonna treasure it more and make it more sacred, because I'm grateful for people more, I guess. Yeah.
I spot you for that answer. I rate that. Where can they find you on social media?
On Instagram, or on Twitter too. Everything is Svetlana Artist, which is SvetLanaArtist.
You're gonna have to explain that real quick, actually. So you're Igbo, but then you've got like a Russian name.
Yeah. So when I was born, I'm not gonna say the year, but when I was born, there was an Olympics, and then the person that won gymnastics was called Svetlana. Yeah.
There you go. Thank you so much for coming on board.
Thank you.
This is Ronins to the East, episode 2. We were at Crossrail Place. This was a lot of fun. It's cold, but
that's fine.
Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Catch you in a bit.